Hi there, this is Sjostrom from Sjostrom Films, and welcome to another random review. And today's random review is Victor Sjostром's 1921 silent film, The Phantom Carriage. This is on Criterion DVD, and it's spine number 579 for those counting at home. This is one of these films that you wonder why on earth you haven't seen it sooner. It's one of those films that I was always aware of, partly because of Wild Strawberries and Bergman, because we all kind of, well, I certainly identify more with Victor Sjostrom from Wild Strawberries, but he was an actor and a filmmaker who helped inspire Bergman himself. So I was always kind of aware of The Phantom Carriage, but I never actually got around to watching it. And thanks to Grey 1951, again, it was in one of his top 100 films video, so I actually went and got a copy, and it's immediately into my wishy-washy top 150 of all time. It's fantastic. This print is really good for a DVD or Criterion. It has two different scores, one by Swedish composer Matti Berg and the other by experimental duo KTL. It has an audio commentary with Casper Tyberg. It has an interview with Ingmar Bergman from the 1981 documentary about Victor Sjostrom, A Portrait, which is really quite funny and interesting. There's also a visual essay by film historian Bergman scholar Peter Cowie on the film's influence on Bergman. There's footage of the construction of the Rasunda studio where The Phantom Carriage was the inaugural production back in 1921. And there is a booklet as well, as you'd expect with Criterion. And it has lovely images. I would highly recommend picking this up because it's a wonderful little set, and it's just a fantastic film, and you can kind of see where Bergman might have, I mean, he says it was just an overpowering experience. He didn't really understand it, but it was quite an overpowering experience when he saw it when he was young. It's essentially a little bit of A Christmas Carol mixed in with a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life, even though that actually wasn't made until 20 years later. It's essentially set in a small town. It's about this kind of alcoholic layabout thug played by Sjostrom himself, and the kind of older member of his drinking group always gets kind of jumpy and morose about New Year's Eve, because he tells the story of the last person to die on New Year's Eve right at midnight. The following year they have to drive Death's carriage, the Phantom Carriage, for a year and essentially pick up the dead as they die. And then it starts with a woman from the Salvation Army on her deathbed, and she's calling out for David Holm, which is Victor Sjöstrom's character, because he had promised to come back the following year to see her, because she'd prayed for him. And then things happen. I don't think I'm going to go into spoiler territory here. He dies, and lo and behold, the person who's driving the Phantom Carriage is his old drinking pal, who has obviously spent the last year picking up the dead, and he feels bad because if he hadn't taken David Holm under his wing and taught him the bad ways of alcohol, he would have, his family life with his wife and children. And he now says to David Holm that he has to take over his mantle. Obviously he doesn't want to, and they go through the night in flashback, kind of showing how Victor Sjöstrom's character got to where he is by his actions, and how he became he's really a bit of a scumbag, to be honest. There's flashbacks to on a drunken night. He spends a night in jail, but he realises he's taken into another cell, and his younger brother actually killed somebody while he was drunk. And again, he feels responsible for that. His wife just can't take it anymore, so she takes the kids and flees. And then he searches the whole of the Swedish countryside looking for her, and basically being a thug and an alcoholic and a layabout. People try and do him good deeds, and he pretty much just laughs in their face. He has consumption, and he actually gave it to the woman in the Salvation Army who's dying. As he says, he likes to cough in people's faces. Why should they be clear of the disease? He's really not a nice person. But the Salvation Army woman, even on her deathbed, still has faith in him. And then I'm not going to tell you what happens. You're going to have to watch it for yourself. But it has a lot of A Christmas Carol in it. Like I said, it's got a bit of It's a Wonderful Life, the dark stuff from It's a Wonderful Life. Sjostrom gives a fantastic performance. The acting in it is really quite modern. A lot of the German expressionist silent films, obviously quite a lot of the acting is a bit arch. There's lots of wide eyes and over exaggeration, whereas the performances in the Phantom Carriage are a little bit more modern. They're not quite as kind of wide eyed and exaggerating their emotions. Sjostrom really gives a great performance, but kind of everybody does. The effects used for the Phantom Carriage are simple, but they're really quite beautiful and poetic, and you can certainly see why Bergman might have kind of had quite an influence on him. especially the dream sequence to start Wild Strawberries. Obviously, it is kind of difficult to actually think that that's the same guy as the man who played Professor Borg. He was 78 when he did Wild Strawberries, so obviously he's a bit younger than this. But it is a little bit, well, for me it took a little bit of time to actually go, that is the same guy, that is Professor Borg as a young man. There is a scene that's a little bit reminiscent from The Shining, for all you Kubrick fans, as David Home takes an axe to a door to get to his wife and kids. Obviously he doesn't mention Johnny Carson, but that's a nice little Shining moment. The film itself could perhaps be a little bit shorter, but I mean that's nitpicking. It's a little bit slow to get going, but once you're on the journey as this fairly despicable character tries to find redemption, it is a dark film for 1921. I don't mean the black and white. At night it's tinged blue, as quite a lot of silent films were. It's funny because people might say, here we are, it's 2019, why should I watch a film from 1921 that's black and white or sepia and blue? It's subtitled, well, it's not, it's got intertitles because it's silent. Why should you watch it? Well, let me answer that. It's beautiful. It's a great story, and filmmakers today could actually learn a lot from I keep saying actually, I apologise, from watching silent films. You know, dissolves, composition, pacing. It's just such a great film, and it really did impress me. And again, I don't really understand why I hadn't seen it before. Again, I've been aware of it through Bergman and through Wild Strawberries, but if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend picking up the Criterion, because it's a wonderful film. So thank you very much for watching this fairly random review of 1921's The Phantom Carriage. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of The Phantom Carriage if you've seen it. Please let me know if there's a Blu-ray available, even though the Criterion print is rather damn good. And hopefully we'll see you again for more random reviews. This is Solitude Rowan saying thanks for watching, and farewell.